Before you continue, remember, not every American legend is fiction. In the rolling farmlands of Wisconsin, a stretch of road hides one of the most terrifying mysteries in modern folklore. A beast that walks like a man, hunts like a wolf, and leaves behind nothing but blood and silence. Tonight, we return to the place where locals swear the woods still breathe, and where headlights sometimes catch more than empty fields. This is not a ghost story. It's a record of fear, of witnesses, and of something that refuses to die. It began in the early 1930s, when the town of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, was nothing more than farmland and dirt roads. The nights were quiet, the woods thick, and the people simple. They believed in God, hard work, and locking their doors before dark. But soon, whispers began to travel between neighbors, of shapes seen near the cornfields, of howls too deep to belong to any coyote. The first recorded encounter came from a man named Mark Shackleman, a night watchman for St. Coletta's School. On a warm summer night in 1936, Shackleman spotted something crouched near the edge of the road, digging into a burial mound. When his flashlight beam hit it, he froze. The creature was massive, covered in fur, its face a grotesque mixture of human and wolf. Its red eyes reflected the light, and for a moment it seemed to smirk before standing upright and walking away on two legs. Shackleman told no one at first. He thought he was losing his mind. But weeks later, farmers began finding their livestock torn apart, not eaten, just shredded. The claw marks were deep, the tracks wide. Some prints had pads like a canine's, others were eerily human. By the 1950s, more people were coming forward. Truck drivers saw a figure chasing their vehicles at night, keeping pace even at 50 miles an hour. Teenagers driving home from dates spoke of a dogman that ran on two legs and watched them vanish into the fog. Then came the name that would stick forever, the Beast of Bray Road. Locals said it hunted along that stretch between Elkhorn and Delavan. Children were warned not to walk alone after dark, and farmers stopped leaving their animals out overnight. Bray Road, once just another rural route, became a corridor of fear. But as more witnesses spoke up, skeptics began to laugh. They called it mass hysteria, campfire imagination, a mix of alcohol and rural boredom. And maybe that would have been the end of it, if not for the blood that kept appearing and the eyes that still glowed at the edge of the woods. By the late 1980s, the legend of the Beast of Bray Road was no longer just whispered around campfires. It was screamed through police scanners and printed in newspapers. Elkhorn, once a sleepy farming community, had become the epicenter of one of America's most bizarre mysteries. It all began on Halloween night, 1989. A young woman named Doris Gibson was driving home along Bray Road when her car suddenly jolted. She thought she'd hit something. When she stepped out to check, the night was dead silent, except for the faint rustle of corn. Her headlights flickered against the ditch, and there it was. A creature hunched, covered in dark brown fur, crouched by the side of the road. It was eating something. Doris thought it was a small animal. Then it turned. Two glowing amber eyes locked onto hers. The creature rose to its full height, over 6 feet tall, with the body of a man and the snarling face of a wolf. Terrified, she jumped back in her car. As she sped off, she heard claws scraping across the trunk. Later, she found deep gouges in the metal, too wide for a dog, too deep for a human. Doris wasn't alone. Within months, several other residents reported nearly identical encounters. Farmers found their livestock mutilated, cattle slashed open, throats torn out, organs missing. One man claimed he followed the tracks in the snow for almost half a mile before they simply vanished into nothing. Then came the most famous investigator of them all, Linda Godfrey, a reporter for The Week, a small newspaper in Walworth County. When she first heard the rumors, she laughed. But after interviewing multiple terrified witnesses, she realized something was happening that logic couldn't explain. Her articles transformed local folklore into national headlines. The Beast of Bray Road had officially entered the American consciousness. People flooded the area, journalists, cryptozoologists, thrill seekers, and hunters all wanting a glimpse of the creature. Some claimed to find tufts of fur, oversized prints, or strange sounds recorded in the night. The local sheriff's department tried to calm the panic. Officially, they said there was no evidence of any animal unknown to the region. But privately, officers admitted the stories scared them too. One deputy told Godfrey that while patrolling late one night, he'd seen a large figure dart across the road, faster than any man, on two legs. Others speculated it was an escaped exotic animal, maybe even a wolf hybrid, but no one could explain why it never aged, never died, and never left. As more people visited Bray Road, more stories surfaced, headlights catching fleeting silhouettes, deep growls echoing through fog, and eyes watching from the fields. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was obsession. The people of Elkhorn began to live between two truths, the world they could see in daylight and the one waiting after sundown. And on Bray Road, the night always won. By the early 1990s, the Beast of Bray Road had become both a local nightmare and a national sensation. Television crews descended on Wisconsin, chasing headlines like real-life werewolf and monster in the cornfields. To scientists, it was absurd, an embarrassing outbreak of superstition in a modern American town. To locals, it was survival. Wildlife biologists were the first to step in. They examined claw marks, footprints, and fur samples brought in by terrified residents. Their verdict? Misidentification. Large dogs, coyotes, even black bears. But none of that explained why the tracks were over a foot long, or why some of them had 5 toes like a human hand. Skeptics argued that hysteria had taken hold, that after the first few reports, every shadow became a monster, every howl a threat. They blamed adrenaline, darkness, and imagination. Yet one problem remained: the witnesses. They weren't drunk, high, or craving attention. They were ordinary people, police officers, mail carriers, teachers, farmers, and their stories matched in unsettling detail. One woman, a school bus driver, reported seeing a huge wolf-like creature standing in a field near dawn. She described its movements as unnervingly human. Another man, a local mechanic, claimed it chased his pickup for almost a mile before vanishing into a cornfield. Investigators like Linda Godfrey noticed something else. None of the witnesses ever contradicted each other. Every sketch, every testimony described the same thing: a bipedal creature, 7 feet tall, covered in fur, with intelligent eyes. As the stories piled up, cryptozoologists, researchers of hidden creatures, arrived in Elkhorn. Some compared the beast to Native American legends of the Wendigo, a spirit cursed by hunger and isolation. Others linked it to European folklore, werewolves, loup-garous, or even demonic shapeshifters that crossed oceans with settlers centuries ago. Meanwhile, paranormal investigators began exploring a darker possibility. They believed the beast wasn't flesh and blood, but something spiritual, an entity that moved between worlds, appearing only where fear was strongest. Some even connected Bray Road to ley lines, ancient paths of energy that supposedly attract supernatural activity. Locals didn't care about theories. They cared about the screams at night, the shredded animals, the glowing eyes at the edge of their headlights. Whether it was natural or not didn't matter anymore. It was real to them. Sheriff's deputies began patrolling Bray Road more often, though few wanted the night shift. One officer, who never gave his name, said he found strange claw marks carved into the asphalt, like something had dragged its nails along the road. When he returned the next morning, the marks were gone. By the end of 1993, the debate had split the town in two: those who demanded proof and those who didn't need it to believe. Science called it superstition. But superstition in Wisconsin had teeth. By the late 1990s, the legend of the Beast of Bray Road refused to fade. In fact, it was growing stronger. More sightings, more evidence, and more fear. For every skeptic who dismissed it, another witness came forward with shaking hands and a story that sounded too real to ignore. One of those witnesses was a hunter named Tom Walczak. In the fall of 1999, Tom was tracking deer near Delavan, just a few miles from Bray Road. He carried a rifle and knew the woods well. Around dusk, he heard a low snarl echoing through the trees, deep, guttural and close. He froze. Then, about 50 yards ahead, he saw movement, something large crouched over a carcass. Through his scope, Tom saw a creature covered in matted fur, its back arched like a man lifting a heavy weight. It turned its head and looked straight at him. Tom later told investigators, "It wasn't an animal, it was thinking. It knew I was there." Before he could fire, it stood up, 7 feet tall, and bolted into the forest, moving on all fours faster than any bear he'd ever seen. When word of Tom's encounter spread, the town went into panic mode again. Farmers doubled their fences. Parents warned their kids not to walk home alone after sunset. The sheriff's office, already tired of ridicule, asked residents to stay calm. But calm was impossible. The early 2000s brought a new wave of technology, and with it, new proof. Trail cameras and night vision gear captured fleeting glimpses of something enormous moving through the woods. One clip showed what appeared to be a humanoid silhouette crossing a dirt path on all fours before standing upright for a split second. The footage went viral, analyzed frame by both believers and debunkers. For every explanation, costume hoax, bear misidentified, digital manipulation, someone else brought forward a story that defied reason. A truck driver claimed he hit something massive one night, only to find his bumper ripped clean off. A teenage couple swore they saw glowing eyes behind their car while parked near Bray Road, eyes that rose higher and higher as something stood up in the darkness. Soon, organized hunts began. Armed locals and amateur monster chasers camped along Bray Road with rifles and cameras, waiting for a glimpse of the beast. But none ever caught it. Some claimed to hear growls close enough to rattle the air. Others said they felt watched, as if something circled them from just beyond the tree line. The creature, it seemed, had learned it didn't need to attack. Fear was its meal now. Even those who didn't believe began locking their doors earlier. And those who believed stopped talking altogether, because by now the question wasn't whether the Beast of Bray Road was real. It was whether it was hunting again. Time was supposed to bury the legend, but like the creature itself, the Beast of Bray Road refuses to die. Even in the 21st century, in the age of satellites, smartphones and surveillance, the reports haven't stopped. They've changed. They've evolved. Now, the beast doesn't just live in whispers around Elkhorn. It lurks in digital footage, police radio logs, and online testimonies from people who wish they hadn't seen what they did. One of the most chilling encounters came from a farmer named Greg Waller in 2018. He had cameras set up across his property after losing several animals, goats and chickens ripped apart without any sign of forced entry. At 2:47 a.m., one motion sensor triggered. Greg woke up, checked his phone, and saw a still frame that made his stomach twist. A tall, fur-covered figure stood near his barn, its head tilted toward the camera. It wasn't a bear. Its shoulders were too broad, its arms too long, and its eyes, glowing, reflective, looked human. By morning, the footage was gone. The SD card was missing. Greg told police someone must have stolen it, but they found no signs of a break-in. Neighbors called him crazy, until one of them, a retired deputy, found claw marks carved into his tractor door a week later. Across Wisconsin, similar stories began surfacing. Truck drivers traveling along Bray Road late at night reported seeing massive shadows darting across the highway. One driver said a shape larger than a man kept pace with his truck for several seconds before veering into the woods on 2 legs. In 2021, a hiker from Chicago uploaded a video online showing something tall moving between trees near Kettle Moraine State Forest. The clip was blurry but strange. The creature's movements were unnaturally fluid, too controlled for an animal, too primal for a man. Within days, the video disappeared. The user deleted their account. Then came the screams. Residents near Bray Road began calling 911 to report animalistic howls echoing through the night, deep, resonant, and almost mournful. Wildlife experts dismissed them as coyotes or wolves, but locals swore they'd never heard anything like it. What terrifies people most isn't what they see, it's what they feel. A sense of being watched, followed, studied. A pressure in the chest that starts the moment you step onto Bray Road and doesn't fade until you leave. Some say the beast is a physical creature, a mutation that survived by hiding in the dense Wisconsin forests. Others believe it's something supernatural, a manifestation of human fear, or a guardian cursed to patrol the land. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain, it's still here. Because even in daylight, the silence of Bray Road feels alive, like it's listening. Time changes everything, except fear. Decades have passed since the first sightings on Bray Road, yet the beast still breathes in the imagination of Wisconsin. What began as whispered folklore has transformed into something much larger, a psychological scar, an unresolved mystery that refuses to be forgotten. Skeptics say the legend survives because people need monsters. They argue that the Beast of Bray Road is just a mirror, reflecting our primal fear of the dark, our instinct to imagine danger where the unknown lives. Maybe that's true, but if you visit Bray Road at midnight, when the wind cuts through the trees and every sound feels too close, it's hard to believe the fear is imaginary. Many locals won't even drive down that stretch after sunset. Some say they hear heavy breathing outside their windows, claws scraping the gravel, or the low echo of footsteps that stop the moment they turn on the lights. Others claim the beast has followed them home, appearing in dreams, reflections, and the edge of vision when they're alone. There's a pattern to the sightings: full moons, foggy nights, cold winds, as if something ancient still answers to forces we've forgotten how to name. But no one has ever captured it clearly. No body, no bones, no DNA, only the evidence of fear, photos that blur, tracks that vanish, memories that shake when spoken aloud. To some, that's proof it doesn't exist. To others, that's proof it's smarter than we think. Local folklore researchers point out that the beast is always seen near crossroads, abandoned farms, or burial mounds. Places where, historically, myths say the veil between worlds is thinner. A few even suggest that Bray Road itself sits atop one of those ancient liminal zones where the spiritual and the physical meet. The story has spread far beyond Wisconsin now. Paranormal shows, documentaries, and podcasts have all explored the mystery. Hunters from across the country visit the site every year, armed with drones, cameras, and hope. None have found the creature, but all of them leave with the same uneasy feeling that something was watching. Whether it's a supernatural entity, a surviving species, or a curse born of fear, the Beast of Bray Road has achieved immortality. Not through flesh and blood, but through the stories we tell about it. Because maybe the real horror isn't that a monster walks the roads of Wisconsin. Maybe it's that deep down, part of us wants it to. If you ever find yourself driving through Wisconsin at night and the road sign reads Bray Road, slow down, roll down your window, listen. You might hear the sound of claws dragging across asphalt or the faint echo of a growl carried by the wind. Remember this story and remember the warning. Legends don't die when people stop believing. They evolve, waiting for the next curious soul to meet them in the dark. Like, share, subscribe, and never travel that road alone.